Why don't we just start with each of you introducing yourselves and sharing a little bit more about your company and what you're doing, just to start. So Carrie, we can start with you.
Nice to meet everyone. My pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity to meet you all here. We are Asia's first cultivated fish company. So I don't know whether you have heard about cultivated meat. Hands up. Lab-grown meat. Okay, great. Singapore actually done a very good job in doing that. Indeed, it is the first country in the world to allow the commercial sales of these new tech food product. So what we do is actually take cells from a fish, and then we produce the meat in a bioreactor. So in a way that we do not need to go back to the ocean to catch a fish anymore. It comes with a lot of other advantages. For example, we can be away from heavy metal, nuclear waste, microplastic, and things like that in the ocean. So this is what we do.
Hi everyone, thanks Schneider for hosting. I'm Grace, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Unravel Carbon, following the Asia's first, I guess we're Asia's first AI-powered decarbonization platform. So we help enterprises measure, track, reduce, and report on their carbon emissions. That's our stated mission, but our hidden mission, as Esther would know, is we really want to lionize the role of the CSOs. We realize that CSOs in many companies do not have the legitimacy, the power, the budget, the team size that is warranted and justified. And so we also invest a lot in just help create that. Not as many people are like Esther, you know, like she says something and the whole company follows from CEO all the way to the board members. But we really need a lot more Esters in the world, definitely in Asia, where we are the home to 60% of global emissions and 70% of global supply chains. Like there's a lot to tidy up in our own backyard, and we're not just doing it with enough speed and scale, and therefore we chose to use AI and data science and climate science to speed that up. So very quickly, in 18 months, our platform is already being used in over 30 countries, and anywhere from central bank to the hotel arm of CDL to Zalora, they are all customers of Unravel Carbon.
So hello everyone, I'm Zie Hui, Director of Tobe Packaging. So we are a plastic packaging manufacturer based in Singapore. So we provide packaging to household brands such as Camel Nuts and Zappy Wet Wipes. So in 2022, we launched a mono material solutions, which is Ecolafin. Yeah. So Ecolafin is a mono material solutions with excellent barrier properties to protect and preserve our foods. We also want to make sure that the plastic packaging is easy for recycling to help with the sustainability on our environment.
Great. So Carrie, back to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your personal story? How did you get to where you are right now? How did this become your career path?
I quit my job 2018 October without a co-founder. And purely because I have been at that time already not having any more product on my plate for a number of years, and I have been holding some social event to bring people to explore plant-based food. And then the takeaway is that after 200 plus meetup in Hong Kong, I see that the rate that people changing to plant-based is just too slow. That is, we need to find another solution. And then at that time, I think we already starting to see some company in the US, Israel, etc., to working on similar technology. And we saw a big gap in the Asian market. It is where we consume a lot of meat, seafood, and there's no product focusing on the consumer's need and culinary culture here. So that's why we started at that time. And yeah, this is what we, 2018, and now we're 2023, 5 years, and we started in Hong Kong, and then we expanded to Singapore here, and we are building our first pilot plant here in Singapore.
Grace, to you.
Yeah, no, I've always built impact focus businesses. This is my third one. The last one, I hope, is too difficult. I remember after my second company was being acquired, my daughter then was just turning 2 years old. Actually, today is her 4th birthday, so if I dash out, please forgive me. But my colleague Derek is here. But when she turned 2, we were asked to write her will. A will for her, right? And it is a very bizarre thing for those of you who have written a will. It's very complicated and there's a lot to learn. But what it did to me was it put my mind to the super future, to the future. And I started realizing that there's no point leaving her with all this material wealth when the planet that she inherits is literally burning. And so I just started self-educating myself about the climate crisis, did that about 8 months. And then, as a repeat founder, the word got out that I was going to build something here, and then the investors just started coming, and it was like almost by no choice that we were, very lucky to have very good backers. Sequoia led our seed round, and therefore, now it's just no turning back, and speed and scale.
Yeah, so I joined Tobe Packaging in late 2019. So actually, since young, I have been traveling with my dad, attend meetings with him as well. From all these, I gained some exposure and knowledge with plastic industries. Yeah, so when I joined as a second generation, I feel that plastic pollution is a pressing issue, and we as a packaging manufacturer, we have to give solutions to our customers and our consumers as well. We have to give them some options on what sustainable packaging they can opt for instead of using like traditional packaging, which are hard to recycle.
So an issue that came out in the conversation I had with Joyce just a couple of minutes ago, we did talk about, staffing and climate quitters and how you find the, employees that you need. Could you each talk a little bit about your journeys there? Because as Joyce said, you guys would probably have some insights into that. So Carrie, may start with you.
Yes, I echo with quite a bit what Joyce has mentioned. In our line of work, we need to hire people with some pharmaceutical background, and then we need to put those technical skill into making food. So what my take is that it seems like the technology and our aspiration for technology actually a lot more faster than human beings. Human beings needs a lot of time to adapt, be it staff as well as consumers. So we have actually seen interview candidates who have all of the technical skills, but then they don't have the expectation about how to use lower specification of the operation to adopt it to another industry. That is one aspect we find like sometimes candidate would not be able to even imagine when they look for a job, and when they're on the job, then they start freaking out. The other is that I think is also for some of this role, when we hire from those who long history working with big company, we also have always have a question mark, can you actually adopt to the startup culture? And a lot of them, when they are quite fed up with corporate kind of situation, they will say, yes, I can. But then when they are on the job, we see is sometimes challenging. So what we find, what may be helpful is that in particular, those who are, you detect some like candidate or existing staff, they have a very strong problem-solving skill that you can throw anything to that person without giving a lot of guidance and direction. If they can sort out, those are the good people to join. If you want to do something internally, like create a sustainability kind of like a project and task, and obviously even the senior management, they don't have a lot of these experiences. So you need someone who have a lot of creativity and problem-solving skill to champion those. And for candidate in our case, we do try to as much as possible detect any of those skill set or soft skill set in the candidates.
I have another question for you, but I'll let you, if you had something to add on that one too, please go ahead.
Actually, a lot, but 3 quick points, right? We really like step-up candidates, where they were previously in a role that is one step below the role that I'm gonna hire, because their hunger, their determination, they don't need to unlearn a lot of the things that they thought is true. So we really like step-up candidates. We purposely hire for step-up candidates. The second thing I would say, so our office is above Shake Shack, on New Road. Come by and say hi. On the 3rd floor, we have 60 seats there, and the data science, machine learning team sits there, the engineering team sits there, the climate science sits there. And whenever I'm just so humbled by the amount of talent that climate tech in general is able to draw, because every time I try to eavesdrop on the conversations held in those teams, I understand like 20% maximum, right? And so, and related to that, I remember, we did a game during our offsite where we asked people to step into the ring if the answer is yes, right? So the question was, who has been to jail? No, I'm joking, but but like we asked, who had to Google what Scope 3 is before the first interview with us? 75% of people had to step in. So I guess the point is we don't really need to look. We need to look for talent from all sorts of domain to bring into the climate crisis. They could be the best in AI, but they're tired of building the next fintech. They could be the best back-end engineer that's tired of building the next e-commerce, right? So they're all looking for an extension of their personal values, which is of purpose. And a lot of our team as well have kids younger than 5. So there's also that personal mission that they're after.
My second question for you was going to be talking a little bit about the actual product that you have at Unravel Carbon and some of the ways that you are utilizing the data for clients. Could you give maybe a couple of examples?
So we specialize in Scope 3. This is where we may complement Schneider's resource planning tool, but how we do it is we use data that companies already have, which is primarily their accounting data. What Unravel Carbon is known for in the market is that we go super granular. We have nearly 1 million emission factors in our database now collected in-house, and 99.4% of our emission factors are granular. That means they are item-specific, location-specific, or supplier-specific. So we really have an issue with companies using industry average emission factors, because while you check the compliance and reporting box, you have no actionable insights. And at some point, you need to re-baseline. And before, the whole world is shifting towards the mandate to reduce rather than just to measure, right? So our whole thing is like, why do you want to go that easy route now? And then 2 years later, you have to spend a lot of money to re-baseline. So we basically read, not we, the machine, reads every accounting item that the company has purchased and match it using NLP to our granular emission factors to come up with the carbon footprint. And then you can track. We have a portfolio module for PE funds, for banks who use us to measure their climate risk exposure in finance emissions. We can do embodied emissions for buildings, and so on. So the measurement, the reduction is our obsession, and then reporting is like a one-click thing that you can download a real-time GHG report from the platform as well. So we just really want to make it very easy, very frictionless, because the brains that you all have in this room shouldn't be used to collect data. It shouldn't be used to run through Excel sheets, right? It really should be used to build a business case around decarbonization and do scenario planning and really strategize around preparing for a low carbon economy. So there's really fundamentally, I can speak all night about this, but I will not, but there's fundamentally a wrong deployment of time and attention right now. That's why we're not moving fast enough. So hopefully with everyone here, we can move the needle a little bit.
So to you, what are some of the main challenges you're facing right now as you're trying to create more sustainable packaging?
I would say currently we are facing 2 main challenges. Firstly is the receptiveness from our customer due to price increase. Currently, our solution is around 10 to 15% higher compared to their current packaging solutions. But we have to consider the benefit that it brings for them as well, such as better barrel properties, prolong shelf life, preserve their food, and to reduce the food wastage. And the main point is that we also have to make sure that the packaging is able to recycle. Yeah. Then the second challenges that we face is, I feel that our company, our customers especially, they are still yet to experience the demand from the consumers. So they seems to be waiting and wait for the changes to become mandatory requirement before they start to embrace the change. Yeah. So these are the two main challenges that we face.
Back to the recycling piece, because I think it is very interesting. Can you share a little bit more about, I think I would like to hear, again, going to the audience, do you feel like when you put something in the recycling bin, you just assume it is being recycled, correct? You think like,
Not in Singapore.
yeah. Can you share what the actual truth is about recycling?
Yeah, I think currently in Singapore context, recycling is still not as advanced as countries like Australia, Europe. Yeah, in Singapore, mainly our rubbish is being incinerated for energy. That is why we see that the recycling rate is very low in Singapore. However, we want to step up, and then we want to. Actually, recently we also went for an Australia mission trip with Enterprise Singapore. Yeah, so from this trip, we see that Australia's consumers are already educated to the level that whenever there's a logo on the back of the packaging, return to store, they will go and collect and return all this packaging back into the bin, dedicated bin in the supermarkets. This is where we get our ideas from, and we also hope to launch the same thing in Singapore as well, trying to promote the recyclability rate in Singapore. But the main thing is we have to make sure that the plastic packaging that we are currently using is recyclable.
So Carrie, talking about some of the challenges, I think you probably face a lot of regulatory challenges. Can you share a little bit about some of that?
Yes, indeed. Although the food is the same, like biochemically is the same as the protein and the meat you find on the live animal. However, because of the way that it's made is different, so it actually need a new way of, the government actually new set of guidelines to vet the whole production process. So because of that, a lot of to begin with, I think none of the countries in the world have that in existence. So a lot of the countries, they have the novel food. Basically, the definition is that anything that has not consumed by human beings in the past, in the history, they will be considered novel food. So in this case, a lot of the time, the government will need to come up with the new guidelines to go through manufacturer like us to say, okay, this is safe, and that can be sold to the general public. Fortunately, Singapore, first country in the world, 2020 December, approved the first case, which is a cultivated chicken. And so they already have the guideline in place. And the second country is actually US. They just approved 2 cases in June this year. So the other in Asia, there are a lot of movement including Korea, Japan, including China. Governments behind the doors are actually working diligently on that. But as we know, legislation is sometimes it can be a lengthy process. So it still be a few years before who's next. So I think these are one of the major hurdle of one of the company like in our space going to market, because commercialization is obviously one of the top concern when it comes to investor. Okay, if we have developed the technology, once we produce it, when are we going to start selling it? So I think that is one of the challenge. We're working very hard on that, working very close, and finger crossed, looking forward to 2024.
Amazing. That's great. So would love to hear from you all, some advice for people in this room that are all obviously very dedicated to sustainability, careers in sustainability. What was your number one piece of advice be to keep people motivated to stay on this path? Because as you have heard at this dinner alone, it is a very challenging one currently. So why don't we start with you, Zie?
Yeah. I think we have to keep consistent with sustainability and keep innovating find new technologies and new materials to have more solutions provide for our consumers or our customers to have different options to choose from. Yeah.
Grace, look up to you.
Maybe can I just have a show of hands who are, CSOs or sustainability leaders in the room? Okay, every table got planted a few, like 2 or 3, and then the rest are big companies leaders.
Kind of a mix. We did a little show of hands earlier. I think we had a mix of some startups in here and some larger companies as well. Yeah, so it's a good mix.
Yeah, I would say for those in large corporates, right, definitely, almost stop the wait and see mentality, right? It is not an argument anymore whether a low carbon economy is being ushered in, right? So yeah, just be courageous, be pioneers, do the right thing, and just get started, and fight for the budget, fight for the power, fight for the team size and all that to perform. Because who will say no to you now? Any CEO who will say no to you will look bad, right? So definitely ride the tailwinds of all the hype and all the regulatory mandates that are coming, and use that to your advantage. I think for founders in the room, I would agree with Joyce. Be patiently impatient, I guess. But don't give up. Also we should just form a community as well for to support each other psychologically in this journey. But it's great to meet new folks.
I think the term sustainable only recently is used in this context, but sustainable is the idea that, okay, how can I do something that I I can continue doing that, right? So I think I think a lot of this action, a lot of the time the barrier is we ourselves, human barrier. We know that if we use too much water in bath, and then we are not helpful to the environment, but there are ourselves is actually the person making those decisions. So I think the good starting point is actually if you ask yourself, do you love yourself? Do you take care of yourself? So a lot of the things that, for example, we know that drinking too much, drinking too often, having that fried food too much, having that processed food, we know that not sustainable in the health sense. So when we start taking care of ourselves, our body, and then I think that will, in my experience, starting with not having animal product, and I think that actually spread to other parts of my lifestyle as well. So I think if we care more about ourselves, and then like what Grace said, care about our next generation, I think that will something come from deeper, that we do not need to argue or push ourselves into a solution or direction, but we will be willingly doing those action.
So where, you mentioned a little bit, Carrie, about where you are kind of in the journey and hoping to have approval by 2025, but what's next for each of you? What are you really focused on as we go into the next year, and what's the next part of your journey that you're on? Grace, maybe we'll go to you first.
Yeah, we definitely want to be number one in APAC, just because we know we understand this market and we have the right product for it. There are right now 13,000 listed companies in stock exchanges in Asia Pacific, but not each is the same, right? A lot of them are still comply or explain. So definitely waiting also for more regulators to mandate. Just like Singapore has. So 2024 is also a good year. More industries are going to be mandated here, and get going, right? It really takes top down, bottom up, horizontal, left, right, center to move things ahead.
And just, I'm taking a side note question for you before I get the answers from both of you. For those that are in the room, startup, larger company, whomever is here, what would your advice be to them on how they can utilize Unravel Carbon or just data in general to kind of
Oh, my favorite question. No,
to take a step in the net zero journey. Yeah.
Yeah, just speak to Derek or myself. Follow us on LinkedIn. Come and book a demo on our website. We're always very happy to show how it's done. Open up the hood a little bit, even if it's just you guys being carbon curious. It's all good. Just. Also for the big companies, right? Give startups a chance, right? We might not have the full feature list that you need, all the bells and whistles, but genuinely, I think a lot of us have really, really good products and still ISO compliant. Okay, we have 2 ISO certifications that we work very hard for, 14,064 and 27,001. So it's not always. If you're a startup, you're not ready to serve a large enterprise. I mean, even the central bank uses us. So, I think for all, speaking on behalf of all of us, right? Like give startups a chance.
To you, yeah, Zie.
Yeah. So currently we develop a mono material solutions for applications like vacuum packaging, frozen food packaging, and personal wear bags like the one you have on the table. This is an end product of our Ecolefin. Yeah. So what's next? We are going to develop a metallized mono material. What we hope to is we are able to provide an alternative material to metallized polyester and also even aluminum foil for applications such as coffee and snacks, as they require even higher barrier properties to preserve the food, as the food content is very sensitive to sunlight and air. Yeah. So this year we also work with a lot of stakeholders such as ExxonMobil, brand owners like the Zeppi and Limke. So we hope that we want to educate consumers on the importance of recycling and the benefits that mono material brings to us and how we can save our environment. Yeah.
We have 3 products. The first one actually is a marine peptide without the need to get it from fish. It's a patented application we have. And so next is actually we're working with some distributor and skincare products brands to use that into the new product line. Anyone interested, just let me know. The other is the fish product. We will be working very closely to hopefully get the approval next year. The first product is Fish More. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Fish More, and it's the first product we will be launching. And obviously, we're looking for restaurants to partner together to design recipe for that. And then we also will be showcasing fish fillet products. So these are the next exciting steps we have.